People can sit more here, monks are not coming out. But if anybody like, okay, can sit also. Ojoya sambo bagyo trashi pa tu chen tile yarmada pege drolor sampe se parache palde lame shabla solvade Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Badhra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Badhra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Badhra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Badhra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Badhra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Badhra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hakyuke kudan dagi alu, hakyuke sundan dagi ma, hakyuke sudan dagi, dönyerme çıktı çingi alu, hakyuke kudan dagi alu. Makyuke sundan dagi makyuke tudan dagi yerme çıktı çingi Oma muni maha
Sogi Chonam La Janchu Bardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchre Sangye Drupa Sho Sangye Chudan Sogi Chonam La Janchu Bardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchre Sangye Drupa Sho Sangye Chudan Sogi Chonam La Jancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchre Sangye Drupa Sho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Good evening. First of all, it's a pleasure to be back here in Holland, specifically here in Mani Badhra. And it was not so long ago I came here last time. No? Can anybody help me to remember? My memory for time it's really, really, really bad.
November 21.
November 2021. Okay. I was already looking this November. I said, no, not possible. Okay. So, just choosing which path to take. But let's start with one very basic concept. And no one of us is able to perceive or experience anything independently of our own self, of one's own self. No? Everything that we see, everything that we listen, everything that we experience, inevitably, we do experience it through all the different filters of our own self. You know? And there are many filters. Some filters we have control over, some filters we have no control whatsoever. Some filters have already been established and we cannot do much about it. Other filters are always changing. But there is one fact, that is that everything that we see, we touch, we experience at every moment, we experience it through our own filter, through our own self. So what I see and what each one of you see and vice versa, it's not the same. It's similar, but it's not the same. But the first thing is that what I experience and what each one of you experience, it's experienced through one's own self. And this means a lot. Okay. So, going directly to the point, because one of the good things of not having a lot of time is that we go directly to the point, okay? We can say that I find out that we have around 6 different filters through which we experience reality. Okay? From these filters, let's say in Buddhist tradition, originally there are like 4 main filters. I have added 2. Okay? But the original filters which are added is, the first one is called Rikyu Gyönten. Then we have Lenkhe Gyönten or Kyeto Gyönten. Then Changto Gyönten and Nyönto Gyönten. Gyönten means characteristic. So the first one, it means the characteristics that comes to us through our family lineage. In other words, our DNA, using a modern term, which basically is the fact that the experiences that our parents and grandparents and so on have made before we were born have an impact in ourselves. Okay? And I never thought much about that before. I had like this concept, but I never really went deeper into it. Then, more or less a year ago, a little bit more than that, I had my first dog. And then when I was a kid, there was the dogs in the house, but it was the first time I had a dog that I was educating myself. And then was Maitri, no? And then I got quite shocked, is not the right word, but I was like amazed to see that this little dog that arrived home with less than 2 months knew how to do many things without no one teaching. I don't need now to go on the list of the things that the dog knows how to do without anyone teaching. But there were many things quite interesting also. And then, walking in the first time that we go to walk nearby the river, it was a bit hot. The dog goes by, the first thing where there's the sand starts digging because under it's cooler to sit in a cool place. And like so many things. Then I was talking to a dog trainer, and the dog trainer said, these are what they call, in English it would be ancestral memories. These are ancestral memories. These are things that the same kind of dog did for so many times, for such a long time, because of this and that, and they had this need, and they had that reason, and so on. So because of this, they now have this memory since they are born. So the thought that I had was, am I an animal or not? Because we have the tendency to see ourselves somehow different. And when we see a dog doing something that we connect, like that we call human, we say, oh, how cute is the dog, no? Because the dog does something that we feel is human, like show certain emotions or do something. But we are simply animals, all of us. At least that's how I see it. And my question was that, do I have also ancestral memories or not? Are there ways of how I deal with reality, how I react to things that I do, that are actually influenced by my parents and grandparents and so on, or not? I'm sure yes. Then there are some studies showing that some traumas, for example, are passed from generation to generation. Like in families where there have been suicidal or rape and other things also, there are threats, aspects which they go by from generation to generation until they are not truly deeply solved. And there are many examples of how traumas and fears can pass from one generation to another. But the main point here is, each one of us, we have a body, which in the moment that we were born, since then we have this body, actually since the moment of conception. This body we didn't choose in a way, that's the result of the body of our father and our mother. And this body comes with many predispositions. The DNA is more like a predisposition, it's not something that will define. But we have this strong influence. So this is the first filter through which we experience reality. Second filter, it's in Tibetan called Lenke or Ketop Gyönten, which refers to the characteristics which are like predispositions that we bring with us since birth, which, according to Buddhist view, from one life to the other, there is a part of ourselves that continue from life to life, which we call the very subtle mind, and within this very subtle mind or mental continuum are the predispositions, like the deep habits that we bring from one life to another. So for instance, if someone meditates a lot in one life, if we meditate a lot when we are reborn, we have the predisposition to meditate. It doesn't mean that we will meditate, but we will have the predisposition to meditate. If we lie a lot or if we kill a lot, we have the predisposition to lie or to kill or to whatever. So depending on the habits that we create in this life, we create predispositions. One moment we stop doing that, but we have there the basis to do it again. This is from the point of view of types of actions, but also from the point of view of our own deeper emotions and so on. So it's connected with anger, or with satisfaction, or with generosity, or stability, or joy, and so on. These habits, in a way, we take from life to life. So these predispositions that we brought from another life, or that we continue to create in this life, is the second filter. The third filter are all the information that we received since we were born. So our education, the cultural, social context in which we grew up, all the information that we received from the books that we read, to the films that we saw, to the messages that we had in our phone up to a few minutes ago, to what I am saying now. Every information that we receive from our five senses, especially from what we see and what we listen, this information coming as concepts, we sum up inside of us, and this makes a very important part of the filter through which we see reality. The fourth filter are all the experiences that we have had up to now, which not always fit with our knowledge. Sometimes something is said to us that said, oh, this is good, but we experience bad, and vice versa. And sometimes we know something about, when something is clear for us through our knowledge, but we had an experience which is different, and the experience talks very strongly. So we have had many experiences in our life. Every day we have experiences. So this is somehow summing up. And this is also a very strong part of our own filter of reality. Okay? And normally, when the experience is strong, it speaks strongly than the information, the knowledge. When I say this, it comes to my mind, for example, one time I was in Milan giving a teaching, and I was quite thirsty. I think it was summer. And then there was water, just like here, there is water. It was in a normal glass, there was the mineral water bottle by the side. I just took the water to drink, and when I started drinking, I got, something wrong. The water was very salty. I said, that's strange. I didn't say anything. I made an effort not to make a strange face. So the people that were taking care there, they wouldn't feel uncomfortable in the middle of everyone. So I just waited. I got more thirsty, actually. And then, I said, I concentrated in what I was doing. Then by the end of the evening, when there were only 2-3 people left that they were organizing, I said, does anybody knows anything about this water? And they said, why? I said, try. And then they tried, that's very salty. Then that's very strange, but we took from this bottle. It was the mineral water bottle, everything. Then after we came to understand that one of the ladies working there in the center, she had problem of skin disease, psoriasis. And she had just come back from her vacation, and she on the seaside, so she brought a lot of seawater with her. And she put in mineral water bottles. So the bottles were there, and someone that was there, didn't know, saw a mineral water bottle and took it. Everything fine, nothing happened, no problem. But the point is that the next week, I was in the same place to teach again, as I do every Wednesday. And I had the water in front of me. And the person came and said, we double checked. The water, it's sure the water is fine, no problem with the water. I knew the water had no salt, it was not seawater, I knew it. But still, when taking to drink, I was like, I couldn't just go and drink at once. I needed to try first. So this was one example for me of something in which my knowledge was saying it's one thing, but my previous experience was saying something else. And the one that spoke louder was my own experience. So when we see reality, one of our strong filters are all the experiences we have had. That goes beyond our knowledge of what had been said to us. These are the 4 original traditional characteristics through which we experience reality. I believe we can add another 2. The 5th one is our own body. Because we perceive reality through our senses. We have the 5 senses plus the 6th sense, which is the sense of our mind, which is directly connected to our whole body, which is brain, and not only, but through our body. So, when I see something, I believe that what I'm seeing is what is there. But actually it's not. No? One example which for me was quite touching, again with my dog. I was one day going to walk in the forest, and then there was one of my friends, which is a dog trainer, and Sylvia, and she said to me, okay, for you to train the dog when you go into the forest to walk, you need to hide behind a tree and let the dog come back to look for you. Okay? I said, okay, that's not difficult. And then she said, but for you it's even easier. I said, why? Because the forest, it's mostly green and you're dressed in red. And I said, sorry, but what does one thing have to do with the other? Because when I come and I ask you, let's make one example. Okay? Here there is some little red and then there is green. Okay? How different are these 2 colors? Very different, little different?
Different.
Very different.
Okay? Why are they so different? Because we can distinguish them so clearly and they are different colors. Come on. Oh, well, that's a stupid question. But and if I ask, what is this color?
Green.
Green. And then in the border here we have
Yellow.
inside yellow, and here we have red. Why is this red and yellow? Because it's red and yellow. Come on. There is no any philosophical answer in a way for that. No, red is red, green is green. Not really, actually, huh? Because the dog sees what we see as green and red. That for a dog, the dog sees it as 2 different shades of gray. So basically, why is this green and red? Because light touches the object, reflects back to our eyes on a certain frequency. Our eyes, as humans, perceive that frequency in a certain way. If we are other forms of life, like dogs or other animals and so on, we would perceive colors differently. So what I see is what is there, or is what I see? Basically, is what I can see. So when we perceive reality, we perceive through our senses. One example, little more subtle. Is there an influence on our perception of reality based on how our hormones are? I would say yes, no? And actually this is... No, I believe that the main reason why normally it's women saying yes, it's basically because men have much less capacity to see one's own body cycles. Because if the man had a clear sign of one's own hormone cycles like woman, physical sign, then it will be more clear. No, but there are many men which I see and I say, oh no, he's in the middle of his cycle, let him be. You know. But the point is that what happens in our body, how much does it influence our own experience of reality? Little, middle, a lot, completely? I would say from a lot to completely. Okay? If we eat a lot, doesn't change our perception of reality. Something that is, we can change something which is pleasurable can be not pleasurable anymore. Depending how our body is, if we are sick, like for example, if we have fever or not, and so on, it can change so many things. Okay? Even according to how we digest, our mind can be more clear or less clear, and we can understand things. There's a whole world of aspects that we can see of how much body and mind are not separated, they are not even connected, they are one thing in a way. This is one concept which I have been reflecting more and more. We have the tendency to divide body and mind. But I believe strongly that body and mind are two manifestations of one same thing, which is the being, the self. We have body and we have mind, but two aspects of the same. So it's not possible for something to happen in the body and have no effect in the mind, as it's not possible for something to happen in the mind and have no effect in the body, because they're two parts of the same. Okay? So we have all these filters. The sixth filter, which we could add, is the environment in which we are. How much are we influenced by the people that are surround us and by the place where we are and the social context and what is happening around us? How much are we influenced from that? Quite a lot, no? So I would say that's the, let's say, sort of sixth filter. Because it makes a lot of difference, you know. Like, I have had experiences of meeting people and they appear to be two different persons when they are alone or in the company of someone else. Well, there is influence. And depending on the context we are, there are some studies which are very interesting in which the researcher takes two sticks or two drawings. One is longer and one is shorter, okay? And it's clearly shorter or longer. There is not so much, like when you look to almost anyone, you say, what's the difference? And everybody would say, this is longer, this is shorter. Then they would have a certain number of people to ask, and some of the people were part of the experiment, so they would say that the shorter was longer. And when most of the people in the room saying quite quickly which one is shorter, which one is longer, you need to point out the shorter one or the longer one whatsoever. When most of the people gave the wrong answer, the tendency of the other people is to continue giving the same wrong answer. Even though it was so clear, the difference. So, and it's not because, oh, I don't want to give an answer different from the others. We have the tendency to follow, and we are easily influenced by what people say, what happens around us, and so on. So there is also the filter of the context and the society and the environment in which we are. Okay? Now, looking through all of this, our body is very important for us. Our environment is also very important. But let's imagine not even a triangle. Let's imagine like an object that is in balance. On one edge we have the body, on one edge we have the environment, okay? And in the center we have the mind. So what happens is that when the body gets sick, we lose balance. When the body is unhealthy and gets sick. When the environment is unhealthy, okay, there is conflict between people or whatever, not only hot and cold, like environment, I also mean the relation with other people around and so on. What happens around us? When the environment is unhealthy, we lose balance again, okay? But what happens is that when the body or the environment is unhealthy, but the mind is really healthy and stable, the mind has the flexibility to adapt and allow it somehow to keep balance, to stay in balance. But what happens when the body is healthy, the environment is good, but the mind is unhealthy? We continue to fall. Okay. In other words, we could say that having a healthy, let's say having a healthy body and environment with an unhealthy mind is like being in heaven and experiencing hell. While having an unhealthy body and environment and a healthy mind is like being in hell but experiencing heaven. At least not experiencing hell. So the point is that even if we look in our own lives, what suffering do we have more in our lives? Physical suffering or mental suffering? According to you?
Mental.
Oh, we develop in our Western modern society, in the last, 50 years, 100 years max, we develop all sorts of techniques to avoid physical suffering. It's winter, it's humid and cold. Not as cold as it should be, but still it's cold. And look here, we are comfortable. We do not pass hunger anymore. We do everything in order, any moment, if there must be hunger, we find a way to eat something and we cannot experience hunger or thirst. If there is pain, we have right away something to take away the pain. If it's too hot or too cold, we have something to do about it. We do everything to avoid physical suffering, and we are very good at it actually, which is not bad. But does this mean that we have no suffering anymore? No. Once someone told me a joke, and in this joke, the person involved was the Dalai Lama, but it doesn't need to be with the Dalai Lama, maybe not so respectful. We could add any Lama, we can say any Lama coming from Tibet. But the joke said, this Lama arrived from Tibet, never been in the Western world, and he's invited in the family, or like a traditional, let's say, successful American family. And then he goes there in the family, they're having dinner together, and he sees everybody showing to be so happy, and everything's so nice, the food is so good, everything is nice, and so on. And then he started to think, oh, maybe everybody's so happy, that's the real path to get out of suffering. Everything is going so well. Then he said, okay, I need to go to the toilet, excuse me, they take him to the bathroom. Then in the bathroom he's a bit curious. So he opens the cupboards. He starts thinking, oh, medicine to sleep, medicine for anxiety, medicine to go to the toilet, medicine to wake up. He said, now I saw where the problem is. And if we look in our lives, from an external point of view, material point of view, do we have any reasons to complain? Truly. No. But do we complain? Yes. About something? Yes. And this is connected to the fact that we have different types of needs in our lives, okay? Which we could somehow reassume, no, my English for today is little. We could condense these needs into 4 different types of needs, which is 3 or 4, which we can find this in Buddhist teachings where it's talked about the 4 generosities. The first need that we have is the need of the body, so it's the material need. What happens when we do not have enough food, or we are in cold, or it's too hot, or it's too cold? All the other needs become less important. Okay? That's why when we have gross physical need, that's priority. So if we are hungry, we need to eat. If we are in pain, physical pain, we need to find a way how to take away the physical pain. It's the example I gave many years. Like if we put our hand in the hinge of the door and we close the door, it's painful. Try to meditate then. And say, oh, I need to reflect on the interdependence of phenomena and the importance of compassion, and try to reflect about philosophy or whatever. What's the only thing that comes to mind in that moment? How to take away the hand from there, how to stop the pain. And if I see someone nearby holding the door and I can reach with the other hand, will I do something to try to take away that pain? Or I will abide to my high morals and saying, oh, I cannot have any act of being aggressive to anyone. And I will say, excuse me, please, can you stop holding the door? And the person will say, no. And then we start, what do? We continue being kind, or we find a way how to do the best? Okay. What my point is that when we have really strong physical needs, That's our main priority. All the rest falls apart. That's how it works normally. That's why when I look to people that are really in physical need, I really don't think that I am any better than them. I just feel that I am in a better condition. Because I have no idea how I would react if I would be in that situation. I have no idea. I have never been myself, and I have really no idea how it would be. So I don't feel that I am any better than anyone else. I just feel that I have in wonderful conditions that I need to rejoice from and make the best use of them. The second need that we have, once our material need is covered, the second need that we have, which I like to imagine like containers, is the emotional need. It's the need of being loved and of loving others. It's the need of feeling secure and feeling cared. It's our emotional needs. It's the needs that are based on the human relations that we have. Okay? And this is also very important. And in our society, we have actually fulfilled our container of material needs is completely overflowing. But it doesn't matter how much I continue to pour in the first container, it will not fill the second. So it's like, sometimes you see like in a couple, one comes to the other and said, oh, but I love you so much, look all everything that I give to you. And the other person is somehow looking and saying, yes, but actually my second container is empty, not the first one. I need attention, I need care, I need to feel loved, I need to feel affection. Oh, but I give all this stuff to you, but it's not filling up the second one. So, this is one of the points that in our society we need to take a lot of care. It's not completely fulfilled. And when we see most of our mental suffering, it's very often connected to human relations, or not? There's a very strong part there related to that. Then there is a third need, which it's the needs of feeling safe. Is our need of not being in danger, of having our own survival secure, of being safe. Okay, which we take for granted because we are in a safe environment. But once this is missing, it takes away all the rest somehow. And the other need that we have is our spiritual need. The spiritual need is, in other words, the need of finding meaning to one's own life and giving meaning to one's own life. When we have everything material is fulfilled, our human relationships are quite okay. Perfect they are not, but they are quite okay. We are safe and everything else, but then there is still something empty inside. There is still something missing inside of us. That's what we call our spiritual need, which is the need of finding meaning into this life. So my point is that, physically speaking, we take quite good care of our body. Relationship-wise, there are many things that we can improve often. But what's the main issue in relationships? Our so-called social suffering, or our emotional needs not being covered, and in our relationships, what's the main problem that generates the conflicts in our relationships? That we project into others our own stuff. That's what happens very often. We project into the people around us our insatisfaction, our fears, our anger, and so on. And so the basis of a healthy relationship are two healthy people. Because if the two persons are not healthy, the relationship would not be healthy. I'm sorry to put it in this way, to be so blunt somehow, But the point is that it is when we are with someone else. Okay, I make another way around. When we experience pleasure, happiness, good feeling, or when we experience suffering, normally we just experience that. Oh, how nice feeling I have. Oh, how bad I'm feeling. We just experience it, or we look for something or someone to blame for. We ask ourselves, why I am feeling like this? What do we do normally? We look inside or we look outside to understand our feelings? Mostly? We look outside, right? Okay. So if I am not feeling well and I look everywhere, and what the first thing that I see is the person next to me. Ah, something for sure you have done. And then we project what we are feeling. Okay. So, the most powerful tool that we have in our life for our happiness or for our suffering is our own mind, are our own thoughts and emotions. That's the most powerful tool that we have in our life. Both to be well and to help also our body to be healthy, and also on the other side, to be unhealthy and to get sick and so on. The most powerful thing that we have is our mind. I have seen so many times people being in the best condition, with loving and kind people around, in a secure environment and safe environment, with materially nothing missing, and the person living that as hell. Just, whatever example, we can make so many examples, but what makes this cup of water having a very high value or a very low value? The intrinsic characteristic of the water, or the value that I attribute based on a comparison? What is more precious, a cup of water or a kilo of diamonds? Depends on the value that I attribute to it, depending on the context. But what makes the difference is not the context. What makes the difference is the value that I attribute to it. That's what makes it having a high value or a low value, and so on and so on. So once again, the power of the mind, the value that we attribute, the way how we relate to things, the way how we see things, it makes a complete difference. So the point that I want to bring is that our tendency is to see that our mind is the reflection of the situations that we experience. Why am I happy? Because this and that happened. Why am I sad? Because this and that happened, or this and that didn't happen. Our tendency is we see that our inner world, our minds, our emotions, it's a reflection of what happens around us. When actually it's the other way around. I don't know if this is how clear this is. Sometimes I talk with kids from the schools. And one question, trying to explain these concepts to them, one of the things which I ask them is like, have you ever seen an adult that is complaining that he or she is very stressed from the job? And they all say yes. So this adult is complaining that he is stressed because of the work. They say yes. Have you ever seen this adult going into vacation and being stressed during the vacation? And they say, oh yes. And why was this adult stressed in the vacation? Because the vacation was stressful, or because the adult is stressed? The person is stressed, or the vacation is stressful? The person is stressed. It's very clear. Okay. Another example, just to help us to understand clearly the point. Because I'm saying all of this because how to meditate, it's really, really easy and simple. The difficult part is wanting to meditate. That's the difficult part. Okay. So So we need to really understand the reason why we would put effort into that. Another aspect of how our mind works. Whenever we see something, we experience a certain situation, we look at it, what appears to our eyes or to our ears are just images, no? So for instance, as I am speaking, what you are listening to are not words, you are just listening to sounds. Nga pyoge gitone keja tibai na, ngedine ma keja shidu kiran somjola kare raj kogudu, dra kogudu, tsi kogudu, tyong kogudu, kare raj resha. Now you listened to sounds or words. I was making the same question in Tibetan. Okay? So what happened is that when we listen, what arrives to our ears are just sounds. When we see, what appears to our eyes are just forms and colors, shapes and colors, basically frequencies of light. That's what arrives to us. What do we do to the sounds that arrive to our ears? We make a small research. We listen to a sound, we see from all the sounds that we have listened before, and then the languages that we speak, which basically are conventions of sounds and meaning and concepts. Does it mean anything? Does this connect with any concept? And then we make the research and we attribute the meaning. It's like one time I was in the United States, in Indiana, with one Geshe Kuten Lama. Many of you know him. And he took me to the airport. And as we were in the airport, we were having tea, and then he asked me something. And then I said, no, he cannot be asking me that. He was making me a question that it appeared as an incredibly offensive question. I said, no, how can he make me this question? That's not possible. He cannot be saying that. So I made like if I didn't understand. So he repeated the question again. Like if he was saying the most normal thing, and he was saying something quite terrible, and I said, no, that's not possible. He cannot be so offensive in this way. And then I said, okay, wait a minute. What do I do? And then he did third time, again, the same thing. I say, okay, that's too much, because if you make an offensive question and you don't get an answer, maybe you just stay silent. But 3 times. Then I was about to answer, when inside my mind, when part of the mind went backward, did like pause, rewind, and I re-listened to the memory of the sound, and I understood that he was making a very basic question if I wanted milk in the tea, but he was mixing Tibetan and English. And I was listening as if he was speaking only Tibetan. And the word in English mixed up with the sound of Tibetan seemed like something completely different. So luckily I didn't answer. Okay? But the point which I want to bring is that when we listen, we just make a research on our previous experiences, our previous knowledge. When we see, what we do, we look at something, we make a research in our own inner database, and we check, is there anything which I ever experienced or saw or learned in the past that put together has anything to do with what I'm seeing here? Any concept that can fit into it? Yes, that thing. And then we project into it. We attribute that meaning into it. But what happened is that if I see something today, and I think, yes, I know that, because I have already experienced it in the past, I take the experience of the past and I project it into the present. How possible it is that it will be 100% the same thing? Not possible at all. For example, when we see a person, we see each other. Then we go, tomorrow we will meet again. Who do we expect to meet? The same person or someone changed? We expect to meet the same person. Does anyone remain the same day after day? No one, ever. So it's not the same person, but we see as the same. Because we take the concept, the mental image of yesterday of one day, and we project into the other. So what happened when someone have a strong experience, for example, of being abandoned? This experience of being abandoned has not been solved. It's something that is still inside moving. Do we project it in the present or not? Yes. So, you were abandoned, Mini. You see, I was abandoned when I was a kid, then now again I cannot trust anyone, and again you're being abandoned here and there. But basically what we do very often is we see the present through the filters of our experiences accumulated through our lifetime. Okay, one more example. And this is something that, this example, it brings something that once I listened to a very nice explanation, and then I came to my own term, but it's actually not the most correct one, but it's selective cognition. We see what we want to see. I have had few experiences of things that I thought didn't exist until I learned that they exist, and I start seeing them everywhere. The other point is that what we do when we look around us, when we perceive reality, we try to create a narrative of reality, a way how reality appears. We try to explain to ourselves and to see things in a way to create coherence with our own feelings and emotions, with how we feel. So if I have a feeling of being abandoned, I'm going to find a narrative around me why I am feeling abandoned. If I feel grateful, I will find around a reason why I feel grateful. If I feel sad, I will look for a reason why I feel sad. Okay. So I have had one experience which for me was very strong. In a very short period of time, in a few days, I had a very strong experience, which in a common way of saying, is a very difficult situation to deal with. But I was in this very difficult situation, which was connected to death, but I was peaceful with it. I was not happy that it was happening in that way, but at the same time, I was not feeling hurt with it. I was peaceful, I was okay. But something very strong. And then in the same period, I had another situation which was apparently very basic, nothing bad, neutral, whatever. Something very simple, and I really suffered with it. And I was asking, why? Come on, that's too much, you know? I go to that most difficult situation where most people would maybe not be able to deal with it peacefully, and I am completely peaceful, I am perfectly fine. And then on that stupid thing, I harm myself, I feel bad, I suffer with it. How is that possible? And then I start to observe myself, and the conclusion I came to, which after I saw it repeating so many times, is that when we find ourselves in front of a situation, it's like if the situation emits a sound, and then it goes inside of us. If there is any wound, anything that is unsolved, any real inner issue that we have not solved inside of us, the sound reflects on it, it comes up. So we experience that through the experience of that wound that we have inside of us. When we are in a situation, it can be a very bad situation, difficult on so many levels, but if it doesn't find anything to reflect inside of us, we deal with it peacefully. So I saw that what was making my suffering and difficulty in the present situation was not the present situation that I was going through, but were the unresolved issues inside of me, my own wounds that actually were coming up. How clear is this? Okay? So again, how powerful is our own mind? It's very powerful in the way how we deal with it. So the question that comes out of all of this is, can we do anything about it? And here there is one master from Tibet. His name was Geshe Chekawa, around more or less 12th or 13th century, something like that. And Geshe Chekawa, in one of his teachings, he said, the mind is full of defects. Oh, but it has a great quality. Whatever you teach, the mind follows. When there is something that is difficult, and you go and you repeat it, once, twice, 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, the more we repeat something, the more difficult it becomes or the easier it becomes. I don't know, you want to play an instrument. You want to do a certain job. You want to deal with a situation that initially is difficult, but then you need to go through it once, twice, 3 times. The more you go through it, the more you'll deal with it, the less heavy it becomes. Okay? Our mind works through repetition. Emotionally also. The more we repeat a certain pattern, the more that way of acting will come easily and spontaneously. The more I complain, the more I will complain. The more I rejoice, the more I will rejoice. The easier it will be to rejoice. The more I act with anger, the more I will act with anger. And like this we can go on and on and on. Our mind, as our body, works on the basis of familiarity, of repetition. The more we do something, the easier it becomes, the more familiar we become with it. So, is it possible to familiarize our own mind with inner states that are actually beneficial for us? Yes. Because there is a question which I did a few days ago to kids. In Albaniano we had many kids. So I was talking with these kids. They were from 8 to 12. And I was asking them, okay, what are the things that the more I have, the better I am? Okay, tell me something. The more I have, the better I am. Money? The more I have, the better I am? Which means more money I have, I will always feel better and better and better the more I have. Does it work or not? No. Some people say, yes, give me yours. I will show you. Truly actually doesn't really work. Because we know very well that everything which is related with external pleasures or with wealth, in the moment that we gain it, it's pleasurable. And then as we keep contact with it, it's not able to sustain that state of well-being. And the more we gain of it, the more we need to get the same state of well-being. And I have met many people that have enough money for this and many other lives, if they can take with them. But still, there is a lot of suffering involved. And it's not truly bringing happiness. But then here comes a quick question. Does money bring happiness? Yes, I believe so. Up to a certain level. The first need. If I don't have anything to eat, I will suffer more. If I cannot take care of my body, if I get sick, I will suffer more. If I cannot live in a safe place, I will suffer more. They are the basic needs of survival. When these basic needs of survival are not covered, the resources that will help us to cover that basic needs of survival will make us to suffer less. So this is good. The point is that once our needs are covered, it doesn't matter how much we add up on it. It won't make us more happy. So, what are the things that the more I have, the better I am? Patience. Or there is a point, okay, now I got some patience that feels so good, but the more patience I get, the worse I feel. I think the more patience I have, the better I am, no? Kindness, satisfaction, stability, love, generosity, wisdom, harmony, are all inner qualities that the more I have, the better I am. And then there are some of them that the more I have, the worse I get. Anger. Or it's like after some time with anger, we get used to it and it doesn't harm us anymore. No. Anger, sadness, hatred, insatisfaction, fear, and so on and so on. So the point is that there are some inner states of our mind and emotions that are harmful to us. And then there are some inner states of mind which are beneficial to us. The definition that is given in Tibetan to those that are harmful is said in Tibetan, it's said nyomung, which with the definition sem raptuma shivar chibena nyomung pao, are all that states of mind that once manifested takes the person away from a state of peace, or more precisely brings the person to a strong state of unpeacefulness.
Can you say one time more, please?
Mental defilements
Yes.
are all the states of mind that once manifested brings the person to a strong state of unpeacefulness. You know, how do we feel when we are angry? In a peaceful or unpeaceful state? Unpeaceful. When we are unsatisfied, when there is jealousy or envy, fear, anxiety, and so on. Okay? So, the point is that once that we see the aspects of our mind which are harmful to us, we cannot take them away. We need to put our energy into the opposite, into the antidote. We need to put our energy into love, kindness, satisfaction, harmony, into peace. We need to put energy into generating inner states which are beneficial for us. But how do we do that? Because, first of all, have anyone here ever tried to take away a thought or an emotion from yourself? I don't want to think this, I don't want to feel this. Have you ever tried? Does it work? Normally what happens when you try to take away a thought or an emotion? It sticks even more. It doesn't get necessarily stronger, but it sticks. It's like you try to think about something else and it's even more there. No? My image is that there are some of this substance that the more you try to take away from the hand, the more it sticks on you, you know. It's something like that. So the only way to take a thought or an emotion away from one's own mind is generating another thought, which is opposite to it. Because we are not able to have two opposite thoughts or emotions at the same time. So when we generate a different thought, a different emotion, we will naturally eliminate the one that was before there. What we do often is that when we feel emotions and thoughts that we don't like, what we try to do is to escape from it. We try to forget it. So we try to distract our mind with images, with other objects, we watch a movie, we talk to a friend, we drink something, we smoke, whatever. Each one finds their own way. But finding ways to forget about the problem. Then, when that antidote that we are looking for fades away, the distraction finishes, that suffering or emotion and so on, it comes back. So it's not really sustainable. So the point is that we need to find ways how to bring to ourselves more stability, how to cultivate our qualities from within. Okay? And one of the methods that helps a lot into that is to meditate. Meditation in Tibetan is said gom. Gom literally means to familiarize. It has nothing to do with thinking about something. Somehow in our language, when we say meditate on love, the meaning that it brings to us is, okay, think about the meaning of love. If I say to you, meditate on the preciousness of this life, meditate on the certainty of death, meditate on impermanence, meditate on love, on kindness, on satisfaction, meditate on anything. what idea does it give to us? Reflect upon that or not? But actually this is wrong. Because if we need to reflect about love, then we are meditating on the meaning of love. We are not meditating on love. Because the word meditate, the act of meditation, is an act of familiarization. We meditate on something when we enter in contact with that object and we get familiarized with it. We get used to it. We get acquainted with it. So, how do I meditate on love? I induce myself to a feeling of love, sincere. And I stay in that state of love as much as I can. Then I am familiarizing myself with love, not with the concept of love. How do I meditate on the preciousness of this life? I reflect upon the preciousness of this life until I feel this joy. Wow, how fortunate I am, and I feel the joy of this life. Then I stay in that state. Then I am meditating on the preciousness of this life. Okay? But one of the main issues that we have in the very beginning, before familiarizing our mind with any beautiful quality that we do have, is being able to control our own mind. Because if we are jumping from one thing to the other all the time, it becomes so difficult to make the mind acquainted with something. Because I'm thinking about this, then suddenly I'm thinking about that, then I come back here, then I go back there, then I go to 25 different places, then I go back a few minutes to what I was doing, then I go out somewhere else. No, it's like trying to study or trying to write a letter or to read something with a very distracted mind. How long does it take? It takes a lot of time. And even when we are finished, the quality of the work is not good. Instead, what happens when we take the same thing that we need to write or to read, for example, and we are able to be fully focused on it, without any distraction? In a short period of time, we can go through that knowledge and we can go deep into it. The memory stays deeper. I don't know if you have ever had this experience. If you ever tried to study or to work on something when you were very distracted. For myself, when this happened, I just prefer to stand up, stop what I'm doing, and come back later. Because it doesn't work. No? So, if I need to familiarize my mind with a certain state, the first thing I need to do is to be able to direct my mind to that state and allow it just to be there. Because there is another very basic concept, but very important, which connects with the concept of meditation, which we find also in physics. That is, wherever there is interaction, inevitably there will be transformation. It's not possible to have interaction without having transformation. So, in the moment that we are here, we are interacting, we are transforming ourselves. All of us. So, in the moment that my mind is in contact with an object, I am transforming my mind in relation to that contact. Okay. But as we said before, our mind works on the basis of habits. And we are not used to have our mind into one object. We are not used to having control over our mind. I don't know, when you say to the mind stays here, what happens? It stays there? Why not? Who is to blame? The fact that we trained our mind to go up and down everywhere. Since we were small, we are used to move from one object of our senses to another all the time. We are going fast from here to there, from here to there, from one object to another all the time. So our mind is used to go from one thing to the other. No, our mind is similar somehow to our other senses. For example, when we are in a very bright light and suddenly we go to a darker place, it looks completely dark. Then if we stay in this darker place for some time, slowly our eyes get used to it, and then it looks to be much more clear. Then when it's very clear inside, where our eyes really got used to the darkness, then suddenly we go out in a very strong light. Then it looks too bright. And we need some time to adapt. Okay? Similar to that, all our senses are constantly adapting to the objects. Okay? And our mind also is the same. Our mind is used to go from one object to another. We have so many stimulation all the time. Are we used to look at one thing at a time? No. We are constantly under attack, our senses, in a way or another. So we are used to it. It's like if you close your eyes, or even if you do an exercise, which is actually very good for the eye, called palming. I don't know, anybody here ever done palming? It's very good for the eyes, actually, and it's the most simple thing. You just take the two hands and you place this part of the palm in the eye, on top of the eyes, like this, without much strength, just gently. Okay? Is it completely dark, or you see some little sparks of light?
Little sparks.
Sometimes people said to me, "Oh, I have lights which I see." Thought was something mystical. That's just the memory of your eye. Okay. So what happened is that if you do this exercise and you stay there for at least 15 minutes, it will regenerate a lot our eyesight. So for example, sit on the table in the office or ever, put your elbows on the chair, on the table there, and just keep the hands like this and stay there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's extremely good for the eyes. Okay. There was the man who taught this. I learned this from my father. The man who taught him, he was doing this and some other exercise for the eyes, but he was technically declined blind. And with all this exercise, he was somehow able to see. And one day he went to do his exam for driving license. So he did 14 hours of palming that day. It is said, and then his eyesight went much better. Then my thought was, is he going to do 14 hours of palming every time before driving? That was what I thought. But anyhow, this is another subject. The point which I want to bring is that when we do this and we see these little points of light, flashes of light, this is just our optical nerve, which is still used to receive light. So we need to give time for it to relax fully. Our mind is in the same way. If we are used to have many objects, when we stop, we are expecting that objects. Our mind has these characteristics that we are always somehow anticipating the future. We're always anticipating what will happen next. Okay? There is even a way of explaining that what we actually see, part of it is the future. Because we are constantly anticipating what will happen, and our brain perceives also part of our own anticipation of what will happen. There are different experiments about that. But the main point which I want to say is that our mind is used to jump from one object to another, and we got used to it. So how can we bring the mind to stay into something? By training it. And that's very important, because once we know how to do it, wow, it gives so many possibilities to us. To say, mind, stay here, and there the mind stays. Read this. We just read it. Reflect upon that, and we remain into that. Rejoice. We stay in rejoicing. So good, no? But to do that, we need to train ourselves. But it's something possible. Okay? one of the first steps necessary is to take away the objects of distraction. Okay? But this we're already entering into how to meditate. Before that still, why to meditate once more? Because by meditating, we use, let's say, we take the reins of our mind into our hands. We take control of our mind. We learn how to direct our own mind and to use it for whatever it fits us the best. We don't let our mind just to be completely wild somehow. Not in the bad sense. Completely lost. That follows like a leaf on the wind, going in whatever direction the wind blows. We need to say the direction that we want our mind to go. Okay? But meditating is like learning how to drive our own mind. And once we know how to drive, then we can choose where we want to go. Instead of having our own emotional state and our mind constantly being the result, we experience it as if it would be the result of what is happening around us, and we have no real control of it. So, I believe it's very important to have control of one's own mind, to be able to familiarize oneself with one's own qualities, such as satisfaction and love and harmony. I think this is extremely important. And remembering that the most powerful tool of happiness that we have is our own mind. It's like, one time I went to my teacher, NgalSo, and I was living in India in the Seda monastery, and I was going to travel to Borobudur in Indonesia. And then I asked Ngala, can you please check if the day that I'm traveling is a good day astrologically to travel? Can you check the astrological aspects just to see if it's good or not to travel? And he simply said to me, no. I said, oh, Ngala, please, can you check? No. But you know how to look at it. He said, yes. But why won't you look to it? He said, no, I will not. Please, 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 no, no, no. And then finally I said, okay, but at least tell me why. He said, that's simple. You already bought the ticket, didn't you? I said, yes. He said, are you willing to change the ticket in case it's not a good day to travel? I said, no. Then he said, you see, the point is that if I look and in case it's a bad day to travel, the influence that your mind will have on yourself will be much, much greater than the influence of all the planets put together. So we're not saying that the planets have no influence, that the astrology doesn't exist, but the influence of our mind upon ourselves, it's much greater than the influence of all the planets put together. And this we can see in so many levels. On a negative or on a positive side, on both levels. So, then if we look from a spiritual perspective, all the process of developing our qualities, it comes mainly from directing our mind consciously in the right direction. And the last thing, then we start with explaining how to meditate in a simple way, is I believe that there are two different ways of living one's own life. The first way, which is the most common way, is that we simply react towards situations. There is a certain situation, we just go through it, we react at it, I do like this because that happened, and we move on, we transform ourselves, reacting towards how things go. The other possibility is that we get in front of situations, but we do not react. We try to act consciously in the way how we think is the best. In other words, the first way, we live the present as a result of the past. On the second way, we experience the present as a cause for the future. So we act consciously towards the future that we want to experience, instead of reacting as a result of what have happened. Now, is it clear the difference between the two? In the first one, the main force that guides me is the past. The second one, the main force that guides me is the future. But in order for me to act consciously towards what I want to become and what I want to do, I need to have the power to direct my mind. And one of the tools that will help us to do that is meditation. Okay. Now, in meditation, we need to be able to direct our mind wherever we want. So the first thing that we need to do is to be able to look to the mind and say, stay calm, stay here, and the mind should follow. To do that, we start by a much more simple process, which is with the body. Okay? There is a very important part into this. Try to imagine the face of someone that is very concentrated into something. What's the face of a concentrated person? This? Or this? The first or the second?
Second.
Normally when we concentrate, we get tired or we get relaxed. It consumes energy, no? And normally we have the tendency to put tension when we concentrate. Okay? Because even when we try to meditate, we say, mind stays here, look at my own breath, don't go anywhere else. And then we are somehow trying to convince the mind, to constrict the mind to stay there. Okay? And this is the wrong way of doing. We need to be able to relax the mind, to allow the mind to rest in the object that we are observing. This makes a big difference. So, to understand how to meditate, first of all, in the process of learning to meditate, of developing the meditative state, there is two qualities that we need to develop, which is called the flexibility of the body and the flexibility of the mind. For flexibility, we understand as the capacity to do what we want, basically, without so much difficulty. So flexibility of the body means I tell the body do this, and the body does that without so much difficulty. So for instance, if I am used to walk many kilometers, I say, okay, I want to go from here to there walking, easily, no any problem. I have flexibility of the body to walk that direction, that distance. In relation to meditation, I sit in the right position, which we will see now. And after a few minutes, start itching here, pain there, this. I have no flexibility of the body, which doesn't mean having a flexible body. It means the ability of the body to do what I want without difficulty. Difficulties. Okay. Flexibility of the mind means the same thing. The mind should do what I want without difficulties. These are the two that we need to reach. But if we try to develop flexibility of the mind without first developing of the body, it will not work. So before meditating, there is one passage that we should do before that, one step that is very important to do before, which I believe it's connected to training the body. And if we do this well, it will automatically bring us to the next step. If we don't do this first step well, it will be quite difficult even to enter into the next one. So the exercise is a very simple exercise, but as many times in life, the simple things are not the most easy ones. We will just sit in a comfortable position and we will say to ourselves, I will not move. And just stay. And see how long you can stay. Not in any position, but in the meditative position of meditation, which is a position that if you allow yourself to relax within it, you can stay for hours there. So, what happens when we do that? We will sit and just stay. The mind, it doesn't matter where the mind goes. You don't need to worry about the mind. You just worry about the body. I am not moving the body. Not even the eyes, or not even swallowing the saliva. I'm just there. 5 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever time we can stay. In the beginning it's difficult. Then we start feeling like itching here and there. And if you scratch, then you need to scratch the whole body. So you don't. You just let it pass. And you stay, and you stay. Then in the beginning, then there is a moment in which you, in order to be able to stay, you need to let go the control of the situation. You need to allow yourself just to be there. There is a moment in which you can relax and you can just be and just stay there. And in the beginning the mind is jumping here and there and observing and looking and trying to understand and judging and this and that. And then there is a moment in which the mind gets tired of all this movement. And the mind looks for a place where to rest. And there we will find one place. It can be an image, a memory, a sensation, or our own breath. We just look for something where we allow the mind to rest. And we stay there. Okay? This is basically the first preparation for meditation. It's not yet meditation when we do this. But if we do this well, then it will be very easy to meditate after. So, to do this correctly, there are what are called the 7 postures of Vairochana, which is the traditional way how to sit to meditate. It is quite important also, because if we sit wrongly, for example, if we sit with our back too much curved, it will generate more mental dullness, we will feel more sleepy and so on. The mind will be more like blurry. Instead, if we sit with our back too tense, it will generate mental agitation. These are the 2 enemies of meditation. Mental dullness, which is the opposite of mental agitation, which is the fact that we try to meditate, but our mind is like half asleep. It's like we are actually not sleeping, but it's a little bit like foggy. The mind is a little foggy. I don't know how many of you had COVID. And after COVID, there is this thing called a foggy mind or brain. I don't know what's the name that is given to it. I had it. And the mind is like, my mind was like if it was in the middle of fog. So for some days, it's like you cannot understand much anything. I don't know how many of you experienced this. I had this experience quite strong. And then I talked with a few people that had it. They also had the same thing. And one interesting thing about COVID, open and close brackets in 1 second. Just to see the relation between body and mind also. I was talking to a friend doctor. It was when I had COVID, and then the doctor said, "Oh, how are you today?" And it was like the 10th day or 12th day after COVID, something like this. And then this friend doctor said to me, "Oh, you know," I said, "Okay, I am okay, but I don't feel so well. I feel a little sad, something strange there." And she said, this happens. When I got COVID myself, after the 10th or 12th day, I don't remember now precise, she said, I stayed 2 days crying without a particular reason. I thought initially it was because of my granddaughter and this and that, blah, 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 blah. Then I saw many of my patients in the same period, they get very sad. Then I was talking to one guy, which is someone I know in Italy. He's the electrician that does the things for us in Albania in the temple, an elder man. I talked to him and I said, I called him for something related to the center. And he said, I'm with COVID. And I said, I just talked to a doctor and she was saying that these days you get so sad. He said, this is what might be happening. I am so sad today without really a particular reason. Just to say, the body has many reactions. And one of them is this blurry mind. And when we meditate, the first enemy is the agitated mind, the mind going up and down. So we try to stop the mind. And the tendency is that we go from one extreme to the other. So we go from an agitated mind to a mind that is half asleep. And the worst thing is that it's actually pleasurable. this state of the mind being half foggy and not really asleep, and it looks like we are meditating, but we are just familiarizing our mind with the foggy state actually. Okay, it's not real meditation. The problem is that it's actually pleasurable. And we can stay there like in the right position. It seems like we are meditating. But we are just into that sort of half asleep state. Okay? Remember that when we meditate, we familiarize ourselves with something, so we need to have clarity of the object where we are. So if I am meditating on gratitude, I must be feeling gratitude clearly. If I am meditating on the single point concentration or my own breath, I need to have clarity of my own breath, or whatever I am doing. I need to have clarity of my object of meditation. So if we sit with a curved back, it brings us to mental dullness. If we are straight but too tense, it will bring us mental agitation. So the back must be straight. So in all these centuries and thousands of years, there is a particular posture in order to meditate correctly. The position for meditation is composed of 7 parts. So, the first one are the legs. The legs, according to different traditions, there are different positions. In the Tibetan tradition, we have the crossed leg, which is called in Sanskrit the Vajra Asana, or the Vajra position, also known as the lotus position. I don't know why in English we call the lotus position when actually it's not called like that, but still. In English, we somehow call the lotus position, the lotus posture, which basically the correct one is, I don't know if you can see from there, where we put the 2 foot on top of the 2 thighs. Okay? But remember that when meditating, the first thing said is sit in a comfortable position. So if this is not comfortable, do not force it. Because if you force it, then where is the mind going? In the pain in the knee, or here or there. And we don't want that. We don't need to get familiarized with the pain of the knee. That's not what we want to meditate upon. So, why this is a good position for the legs? Because when we are sitting like this, automatically our second part will be done, which is having the back straight. Okay? So, we can sit with a full lotus or the full Vajra position, or with so-called the half lotus, in which we keep 1 foot above and the other one below. This is the one that personally I like the most when I need to sit for a longer period. I can do the first one, but after some time it becomes a bit tense and painful, so I prefer to sit like this. Normally with the right foot on top of the left leg. Okay? This is how I personally prefer to sit. If we are more comfortable sitting on a chair, no problem. Okay? Try not to have your legs crossed like one on top of the other, like this. Try to sit with the legs straight, normally. The most important part is sit with your back straight. Okay? Normally we should have a small cushion behind to help us to keep our back straight. And then we imagine from the top of our head, where there is, in Tibetan, the name is the door of Brahma, the fontanella. I don't know how to say in English. Fontanella, okay. So here, more or less, imagine there is a string that is pulling slightly upwards. So we imagine that our back is straight. So we have 1 leg, 2 back, 3 shoulders. Our shoulders should not be too much closed to the front, and also shouldn't be too much wide open. We should have our shoulders relaxed in a natural position. And sometimes we sit to meditate, and then actually our shoulders are tense. Like now, my shoulders are tense. Okay, now they are relaxed. Okay, so 1 leg, 2 back, 3 shoulders, 4 arms. We put the right hand on top of the left hand, with the 2 thumbs touching together at the height of the navel. The 2 arms are not touching the body, but are making a sort of triangle. Depending on the position of our legs, this is the correct height where to put our two hands. What happens sometimes is that because of the way how we are sitting, to keep the hands in the right height is like if we are holding it upwards, so it generates a lot of tension. So it's important to have the arms very relaxed. So one thing which you can do sometimes, you take like a coat or a pashmina or something, and you put on your lap, and then on top of it you put your hands. This helps also, okay, sometimes. So we have the two hands with the thumbs touching each other, no tension between the thumbs, they are touching gently each other. So we have 1 legs, 2 back, 3 shoulders, 4 arms, 6 head. The head shouldn't be too much looking down, or also should not be looking upwards. The head is slightly downwards, with the 6th mouth. The mouth is relaxed, with the lips touching each other. Our teeth are not touching each other, just our lips. And if possible, we put the tip of our tongue on our palate. It's like if these are the teeth, we just, or here are our teeth, we go with the tongue upwards and we rest the tongue on the palate. Not back, but in the front of the palate. This helps for us not needing to swallow the saliva. Because if we stay sitting in a meditation posture for a few minutes already, we will need to swallow the saliva. So the possibilities are, or we swallow the saliva, or the saliva starts falling from our mouth. It's not a big issue, but it's not so nice. Or we put the tongue into this position, which makes us not to need to swallow the saliva. Okay? So we have the 6th is the mouth, and the 7th are the eyes. Our eyes shouldn't be too closed. This will bring us to mental dullness, or not completely open also, because this will bring us to mental agitation. So we have our eyes that are slightly closed, looking downwards. Okay, there are different techniques of meditation with the eyes in different directions. In our Tibetan tradition, we meditate looking downwards. So we bring our eyes towards the front of us, looking downwards. And these are the 7 postures. So we have 1 leg, 2 back, 3 shoulders, 4 hands and arms, 5 head, 6 mouth, 7 eyes. The 8th part of the posture that can be counted or not is our own breath. So we will allow ourselves to breathe naturally, possibly bringing our air below our navel. So the first exercise is where we simply sit, put ourselves into the right posture, and we say to ourselves, I will not move. And we stay into this position until we decide, okay, now I can move, when we feel that it's not comfortable anymore. We allow ourselves to make one small, very small step beyond our own comfort zone. Don't move too much beyond one's own comfort zone. A small step beyond. And try to generate comfort a little bit beyond the comfort zone, not much beyond. So we just sit and stay into that position. Don't worry about the mind. Allow the mind to go anywhere. You can think about anything. This is not meditation. This is just preparation for meditation. We are training the body. In the beginning it's more difficult. The more we do, slowly, it gets easier. So this is the exercise itself, which is very simple. The next step, once we have some familiarity with this, what we will do next step is we will feel that the mind wants to go somewhere. And after some time the mind gets tired of going up and down. The metaphor that is given is like if there is a bird that it's flying from a boat that is in high sea, and the bird starts flying from the boat. It can fly very far, and by the end of the day it will come back to the boat because it has nowhere else to go. So similar to that, our mind can go to the past, can go to the future, can move everywhere, but it will finally come back to the present. So if we just sit and we stay there and we don't force the mind in any direction, there is a moment in which we get tired of moving up and down, and then we allow our mind to rest into one specific place, which is a place where to rest our mind. It can be an image, it can be a sensation, it can be our own breath. So we choose one place where to rest our mind, and we allow the mind to rest there. And we just stay there. And as we allow our mind to rest in the object that we chose, like our own breath, or the sensation at our nostrils as we inhale and exhale, or a particular image that comes to our mind, a memory, a sensation, the more we allow our mind to rest there, when suddenly another thought arises, we don't block that thought, but we do not follow it either. We just let it go, and we bring back our attention to our object. We rest once again our mind in our object. It's more like when another thoughts come to our mind, it's like if we want to stand up and go away from the object, from the place where we are rested. And we say, no, stay. You can still rest more. And we allow the mind just to stay there. Until we can feel that it's pleasurable, until we feel that it's comfortable to remain where we are without other thoughts. Okay. So this is actually the second step that we need to do, which is already then we start to meditate. Then we are actually meditating into a specific object. There is another step which we can do before still, which is actually very useful, but I like to take the advantage to explain it also, which is another exercise that can be done separately. Even here, we can do the first one of not moving, and no, we don't need necessary to go into the second one. But my advice is, if we want to meditate, before trying to train the mind, first train the body. Which doesn't mean become the most expert in yoga or whatever. Just familiarize yourself with being still. Sit and sit and remain there. It's not difficult, is it? It's not complicated. But simple things are not so always most easy ones. But it's possible. One important aspect of all this is that it works as long as we do. Knowing how to meditate has no any usage as long as we don't meditate. And we need to meditate with some frequency. We need to train our mind with frequency. So possibly a little bit every day or every 2 days, but we need to do with frequency. If we do a little bit and we let go and we don't do anymore and then we go back 1 week after, then we will always be in the same place. We're never able really to go much beyond. So, yes?
I was wondering, but who is talking to the mind saying this? Because it seems like you're talking to yourself.
Yes, you are talking to yourself. This is one of the characteristics of the mind. The mind is it appears to oneself. No? So when we look, basically we are directing because in other words, what happens is that our mind have different types of ways of perceiving things and levels also. No? So from our cognitive level, from the more conceptual level, we are directing our thoughts and our emotions, and we are directing ourselves. So basically that's what we are doing. We are trying to direct our spontaneous mind through our intellect. And then slowly we allow the intellect to rest. And then there is a moment when there is no more talking. There is just experience, it's just being. Okay? And this talkative mind, in the beginning, is very active. Then as we are able to rest the mind into one object, then it starts to be silent. And then there is a moment in which it completely fades away because it's not necessary anymore. Okay? This mind is called vigilance, in which we are checking, where am I going? What am I doing? In the beginning we need to check, because our mind, we are supposed to rest the mind in this here, but when we think, we go somewhere else. So we need to come back, bring back our attention. The more we go through it, the more we are able to stay into the object without distraction. Then we can slowly let go the vigilance. We can rest that mind and stop this conceptual perception. We can make it less and less. Okay? There is another exercise which we can do before, but which we can also do separately, which is also helping to meditate. It's not meditation itself, but I think it's very useful. This exercise can be divided into 2 or 3 ways even. So we sit, we are in the right position, and then the first thing that we will do is we will observe the tensions accumulated in our body. So we observe if we have any tensions accumulated. We do like a sort of body scanning. So we will scan our body and see where we have any tensions accumulated. In the shoulders, in the abdomen, in the chest, neck, wherever. And wherever we feel there is tension, when we inhale, we grab the tension. When we exhale, we let the tension go away. If the tension is very strong, we can inhale through the nostril and exhale through the mouth. Otherwise, we do both through the nostrils. Okay? And we give our time in which we will just focus on the tensions accumulated today, on the tensions accumulated in the previous days, until we can even see and feel the tensions in the body that comes from many years ago. There are some tensions that we have been holding them. They are there since long time. In our chest, or as we said before, in the abdomen, or in the head, in the neck, and so on. So we don't judge why there is tension, what happened, what didn't happen. We don't go into any of that. We simply allow ourselves to recognize the tension. As we inhale, we take the tension. As we exhale, we let it go. Once we have done this with the body, then the next step, we will do this with the mind. We will observe our own tensions of the mind. Sadness, anxiety, fear, worries, and so on. So any tension that is there on our mind, we do not enter into judgment. We just see where there is the tension. We inhale, we grab the tension, we exhale, we let it go. Okay. And we do this for some time, until we can feel better that the mind is relaxed, the body is relaxed. These tensions are somehow gone. Then, another thing that we can do, we inhale light. When we inhale, we imagine light that is coming in and filling our body, bringing us a deep sensation of peace. is that the light that comes in brings us a feeling of peace and well-being, with satisfaction, with joy. When we exhale, whatever negativity still remained, it's completely gone outside in the form of smoke that dissolves into the space around us. I was teaching this to some kids a few days ago. Then one kid saying, I have a problem. I said, yes. I exhale the smoke, but when I inhale the light, it's mixed with the smoke. Then the smoke comes back in again. The smoke dissolves into the space. When we exhale, the negativities that go out, they simply dissolve into space. And then when we inhale, we imagine light coming in and filling completely our body and mind, bringing our mind to a state of peace. And we allow that as we go in, as we breathe in and out, and then we relax ourselves into this state of peace and well-being. Okay? This is another level of preparation. Before then, within that state, we just sit and I will not move and stay there for some time. Don't need to focus on how many minutes. Just allow the time to flow without trying to have control over time. It's important to try to somehow to let control go away. We are not letting go away the control in the sense of going everywhere with the mind, but in the sense of just relaxing where we are, not trying to have a conceptual control of what is happening. Then when we see that we can stay physically, then we just direct the mind in the particular object that we choose. Anything can be a physical object, like one's own breath, something that is easier for us to grasp at. And then we just allow our mind to rest and stay there. In that moment, any other thought that comes to our mind, we don't block it and we don't follow it. As we follow with our breath, another thought comes, we inhale, exhale, and then when we inhale again, we bring our attention back to our object, our breath, an image, and so on. And we do this for some time. It is said that a good timing is to start and to do like 15 minutes. Okay? And then when you do this for some time, you will see that gradually it becomes easier. Then it's possible to stay into this state for longer periods of time also. And then this will bring a lot of clarity for the mind. If you meditate correctly, one of the signs of meditating correctly is that you will have more, your mind will be more clear and more sharp and emotionally more stable. These are signs that you are meditating correctly. I always remember when I was a small kid, my father did a 6-month retreat of meditation in India. And when he came back after 6 months meditating like 10 hours a day, I remember him arriving and we were in holiday in the mountain with my cousins and so on. And we were playing a lot of video game. It was raining, so we were inside the house playing a video game. And my father never ever played video game in his life. It was something that he really didn't like much. So he sat down to do something with the kids because he was for so many months out and he wanted somehow to connect with the kids. So he sat with us and he went to play video game together. And he was much better than all of us put together. So we started making jokes on him saying, oh, what were you doing in India? Were you playing video game or what, you know? But the point is that once the mind is clear and more effective, you can do anything. So what are the signs that if we are meditating correctly? To bring the mind into this relaxed state in which the mind rests into the object and stays there, it becomes each time less difficult. But on the daily basis, we feel that we have more control over our thoughts, more control over our emotions, we feel more stable. These are some of the positive effects of meditation. Okay? There is one thing that you need, like a warning. Careful, it creates addiction. Okay? It's a good addiction, but once you start meditating a lot, then after that you feel the need to meditate. Until the moment in which it's possible to reach the state which is the meditation beyond meditation, which is a state in which you can enter into the meditative state when you are not meditating. So somehow basically it's like the meditation, state of meditation and the non-meditation becomes like one. So basically the mind is always rested and it's always under control. It doesn't matter if you are eating or driving or sitting into one particular object. No? This is one of the objectives where we want to reach. Okay? But before we get there, just sit and don't move. Okay? And you know, I don't know exactly why, but we have the tendency that we really like the complicated things. And we always want to go to the most highest level practice. So if someone comes to us and say, look, there are 5 different practices, and this is the most basic one, and this is the most advanced one, we will choose the advanced one. Okay, this is normally what happens. But the fact is that we need to start from the basic. Because the basis is what allows us to do all the rest. Otherwise, we will get very frustrated. Because we go right away to the advanced techniques, and then we don't move forward. We are just running around the same thing, you know, and we don't feel much effect because we don't have the basis. So it's very important for us to focus also on the basis. Just sit down, allow yourself to be there. Like one time one man came to Buddha and asked, "Oh Buddha, what you and your disciples do?" And Buddha answered, "We walk, we sit, and we eat." And then the man asked Buddha, he said, "Sorry, but all of us walk, sit, and eat." And Buddha said, he said, "What's the difference?" And Buddha said, "When we are walking, when we walk, we are walking. When we sit, we are sitting. When we eat, we are eating." That's the main difference. Instead of being somewhere else. So we need to train ourselves just to be. Just allow ourselves to be there, to rest there. And once we can do that, then this opens an ocean of possibilities. Okay? And I will just give one example of possibilities. And then this example can open to so many others. Let's choose one. Okay, I will make the most classical one, which is something that is very clear. Anger. Is there anybody here that never got angry? I think it's part of our human experience, right? All of us, we got angry at some point, and some of us, we have more anger, and others have less anger. Okay? But what happens is that anger is a really not good emotion. It's really harmful to us in so many levels. Instead of anger, we can do the same exercise with jealousy, with envy, with insatisfaction, with fear. With fear, it's a little more delicate, but still can be done with fear, but it's a little more delicate. But we can do it also with the lack of awareness of the preciousness of this life, or with the ignorance of grasping at permanence of impermanent phenomena. There are so many ways how we can do it. But let's give the example with anger. I need to train myself in patience, which is the antidote of anger. So patience is our ability to be in front of the object of anger without following this emotion and without generating an aggressive state of mind, speech, and action. So, what we do is that we sit down in the correct position, as we said before. We breathe in and out, we relax, we bring our mind to the present moment, and then we do first what is called an analytical meditation. So analytical meditation is like if we are trying to convince someone about something. It's like it's an inner dialogue. So we will go about that object, which in this case is patience, and we'll say, oh, why anger is so bad to me? And we will go through all the reasons of the harm of anger and the benefits of patience until we reach the inner conclusion, it doesn't matter what happens, it is not a valid reason to react with anger. Because it's not going to help me, it's just going to destroy my personality, my person and my life and my relationships. I lose completely control of my actions and my words when I get angry. I see the world from a negative perspective. I really don't want to allow myself to go through it. So until we go through this analysis, until we come to the conclusion, it doesn't matter what happens, it's not a reason to get angry. Second, we take the conclusion and we put it aside. Then, as we are in this state, we breathe in, out, we imagine a situation where we normally would get angry. We imagine with all the details, there I am, that person comes, say this and that to me, and this happens and that, and I see a certain situation, whatever. And then until we allow ourselves to start feeling anger, we see the anger that starts to manifest. Not conceptual, it comes not from the head, it starts coming from the chest, the belly, it's coming from within. Then when we see that starting to come, that's when we take the analysis of before and we apply to say, what am I doing? I should not act in this way. And then, as we are in front of the object of anger, we allow ourselves to remain in a peaceful state without being aggressive, physically, verbally, or mentally. And we allow that anger just to come and go. And we stay in a neutral state in relation to the object of anger. And we stay into that state as long as we can. Then we are meditating on patience. And we rest our mind into that state in which we do not react with aggression, in which we are neutral towards the object of anger. And we just stay into that state, and we rest our mind into that state. Okay, so we are familiarizing ourselves with patience. And like this we can give thousands of examples. Meditating on the antidote of jealousy or envy, meditating on generosity, meditating on the wisdom that realizes impermanence or interdependence and the correct view of reality, or the preciousness of this life, or our own mortality, the certainty of death, and so on. There are thousands of examples that we can give. But to be able to do that, first we induce our mind to a certain emotional state that we want to familiarize ourselves with, and then we remain into that state as long as we can. We rest our mind into that state. This is one example of meditation, okay, which is very powerful on many levels. There are many things that we can do here which are very powerful, because through this meditation we go beyond the conceptual. We go into something which is more experiential. Because when we do something like this, we are generating an experience, not an understanding, which is two completely different things. And when we are physically in front of a situation, what directs and what defines our reaction is not our understanding, but our previous experiences. And when we do true meditation and imagination and we react differently from within, we are actually generating a new experience, not a new understanding. And the more we do that, the stronger it becomes inside of us. And we can apply this into so many different examples. Okay? Then on top of that, we can add meditation with visualization, with recitation, with movement. There are so many different kinds of meditation. Okay? And tomorrow we will see one of these types of meditation, which is the meditation of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and the 5 mothers that Lama Michel Rinpoche transmitted to us. So, just to conclude, before putting any emphasis on how to meditate, please put a lot of emphasis. Do I really want to meditate? Is it really good for me? Is there any negative side effect? No. I don't know any, at least. So it's important to go and to see what are the benefits of meditating and go through it, reflect more and more again and again upon it, until we feel like, oh, I need to meditate, I really want to do it. Because if you don't have passion for it, it will not happen. If you don't see the benefits of it, and if you don't believe in it, and if you don't want it, if you don't have passion for it, it will not happen. Why? Because it needs constancy, and it's not so easy. If you do once, and then you don't do again, and then because you truly don't want it. So it's very much based on what do we want. And in order to want something, we must see it, we must understand it, we must believe in it, we must have some experience and say, yes, I want to do it. Okay? Because learning to meditate nowadays, you can find thousands of online courses and many teachers, and it's what I have taught today. It's very simple and you can do. But cultivate the wish, cultivate the desire, the passion to meditate. That's the real key that will allow all the rest to come afterwards. Okay. So I think this is more or less all that I wanted to share for today. And I really make this simple request. If there is anything that we have said today that you feel that is of any benefit, please do your best to put it into practice. Please don't take it for granted and just don't try not to lose oneself within the daily things that we have to do here and there. Bring it into practice. That's important. Allow yourself just to sit and experience. Try for 1 week at least. No? And one last thing, if you want to meditate, you must make space for meditation in your life. Physical space, mental space, and most of all, space in your agenda. Time space. Space in timing is the most important thing, actually, finally. It's interesting, for me, the agenda is this magical object. When you write something and then suddenly you need to do it because it's written there, you know? So if you take and you say, okay, I will do meditation from this time to that time, now I need to do it. And you write it down. No excuse. Oh, but then I have something else. No, I have that. It's written there. Look. Okay, it's actually quite powerful. Because if you don't make a specific time space for it, a time slot for it, we are so busy with so many things, we get lost. Oh, I need to write an email. Oh, I need to answer this. Oh, I need to talk to this person. I need to make this call. I need to do this. I need to do that. Oh, what about the news? Oh, what about social media? And here and there. And when we see it, it's gone. The day is finished. But if we create a time slot for it, okay, I will do this. Like one of my teachers, okay, this is a bit extreme for most of us. But he made a very clear time slot in his life, which was every day he would meditate from 3 in the morning to 6 in the morning. He would wake up every day at 3, and he would meditate from 3 to 6. Then he would have breakfast at 6 and go to work in the monastery at 7. And then in the evening he would do his prayers. You know, I'm not able to do like this. Okay? But we can take our own schedule and make some time, make some space for it. This is what actually makes a big difference for us. And do not allow yourself to give so many excuses. Because we are, at least myself, I feel that we are very good into it. Oh yes, but here and there, yes, I would like, but this, and no excuse. Do I want? Yes, come on, 15 minutes a day. Is it so difficult? Are we so busy that we cannot take 15 minutes a day? Actually not. Oh, but I need to go to work in the morning early. Wake up 15 minutes before. It's not that impossible. And if you can try to meditate on different timing of the day. Normally, the best timing is said to be in the morning before you start all the activities of the day. But you need to see according to your own schedule and your own context. For some people it's better in the afternoon, for other people better in the evening, when you need to try. But take out at least 15 minutes and just, make this simple exercise. I will not move for 15 minutes. And just allow yourself to sit there and not move for 15 minutes. It's not that difficult. Try for 1 week and then see if there is any benefit. If there is any benefit, continue. If you feel no benefit, stop doing it. Okay. Thank you very much for having this time together. And then tomorrow we will have the teachings on self-healing, correct? No? This was in the program, together with the environment practice, no? So this is one of the teachings that Lama Michel Rinpoche gave. It's a very special technique of meditation with visualization and so on. So we'll give one explanation and do the practice together. Okay? So we do our final dedications for tonight. As according to our tradition, in the beginning we generate the motivation, and in the end we do a dedication. Jetsun lame kutse rapten shi namkra trile chokchur gepada losan tempe drume sasum Growe musela tatu ne gyuru chi kiwa kuntu yanda lama dan drame cheki pela longchu chi Sada lamge yante rabzo ne dorje change kopa yurto visho nimo dele sendele nime kuyan delek shi nitsen taktu
Kuncho sumki
jingi loba kuncho sumki modrutso kuncho sumki tashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
Op zonsondergang, bij nacht of middag, mogen de drie juwelen ons hun zegeningen schenken. Mogen zij ons helpen om alle realisaties te verwerven en het pad van ons leven besproeien met variërende tekens van voorspoed. Abenden, nachts of middags, mogen die drie juwelen onze zegen geweren. Mogen sie ons helpen alle te erlangen.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Blommen. Ik zit met yoga blommen.